Greetings. This is Brother Love Ill, and I'm out there reaching out to all of the world um, with regards to this Indiegogo campaign, Save Your Homes from Foreclosure. Now, I understand that this is a really hot topic with regards to what's been going on Wall Street and how it has been affecting Main Street. What we want to do is we want to address what's been occurring to the little fella as far as foreclosures, the big bad banks against the regular guy, the average Joe. A lot of times when people face foreclosure, it can be a traumatic experience. Oftentimes they look at themselves and say, what did I do wrong? Okay? Obviously there's an issue with paying your debts. It hits to the core of your morality. A lot of people are innately opinionated people. Well, what I mean is that traditionally a person wants to do the right thing. They want to pay the debts that they owe, and they want to do it in a fashion that's going to be amicable to everybody. But the problem is, when you look into the foreclosure issue, you'll see that everything is not what it seems. When you first sat down to sign off on your closing documents, there were certain things that you signed that you were not aware of. Matter of fact, most people were probably not given the opportunity to look through the documents because, as an ex-realtor, well, they say once a realtor, always a realtor, but I actually let my license lapse in 2009. I had first got in 2001 because, see, I was clear on the reason why I got into real estate. I wanted to learn good people about the business so that I can help the common guy, help the little fella, because some things had opened up to me with regards to some research that I had done as far as how real estate transactions transpire here in Illinois, state of Illinois. Upon my investigation, what I found was pretty interesting, to say the least. And the fact of the matter is, all these people that are losing their homes, for the most part, it's not even their fault, even though they may think it's their fault. But this is why this saying goes, knowledge is power, or rather, applied knowledge is power. Because when you understand that you have been scammed, pretty much, or there is an element of fraud that comes into play, if this is based on either conspiracy or ignorance. The fact of the matter is, there are certain things that was not disclosed to the borrower. And the fact of the matter is that, in fact, the borrower is the actual lender. And this deals with the general accounting principles. I believe that's GAAP. GAAP. I'm not saying it verbatim, but I do know that when you credit one side, you must debit the other side, and it must be matching figures. So, the fact of the matter is, when you originally signed off on the notes, you actually purchased the property with your signature. That's only because of certain historical events with regards to the discharging of debt, the fact that there is no money in circulation. Well, this is based on the fact that when you look at your Federal Reserve notes, I have one here, you'll see that there used to be gold certificates and silver certificates, but what you see on there is a Federal Reserve note. And that's basically a promise to pay, folks. So a note is just a promise to pay. When you look at what it is, that's technically what a note is. There's no payment of anything, it's just a promise to pay. So what that means is that at some future date, the payment will be made. And from my recollection of research, study, and investigation, gold, silver, and commerce belong to the citizens and the citizens alone. The wealth of any government, that is. So, and the wealth of the government is gold, silver, and commerce. And this, my good people, is not gold, silver, or commerce. Well, it's part of the commerce part because it's backed by energy, things of that nature. But the gold and silver, that element is not present in this note. So, with that being said, how that relates to real estate and foreclosures, well, that's quite interesting because in the most simplistic terms, you're not required to pay a debt with a debt. However, that's exactly what they have you doing. And on to the fact that you're paying for the property 3 times because when you actually signed off on the dotted line at the closing table, you signed off and you actually purchased the property once. And then twice they set you up on a payment plan where you're actually making payments because you actually signed the property back over to them through a deed of trust or a quitclaim deed or whatever instrument of transfer that they have within the closing documents, because there's also a power of attorney. You actually turn over your power of attorney to someone else. But you're given a whole stack of papers. Most likely you had a closing attorney there to help you. But you're given a whole stack of papers and they tell you sign here, sign here, sign here, sign here. You don't have time to look over these documents when actually, in actuality, you should have been given 72 hours prior to the closing date to review all those documents. If you were not given that time, then that rescission period, which is actually 3 days, runs until you actually find something within the contract that's not totally what it should be. And then, so the rescission period can run anywhere from 3 days to 3 years. Most people are not aware of that fact. And then you also have the fact that you have predatory lending, which means that there are loads of people that got refinances on their properties, and they actually ended up selling the loans on those refinances. Well, that's what they call cooking the books in a sense, whereas that's what I was saying about the 3 times, because the first time they did it, you pay for it. The second time, they set you up on a payment plan, and the third time, they sell it on the open market, which means it's sold on the stock exchange to a group of investors. So they get paid 3 times. And that's what they mean when they talk about the series of such as such series of banking. A lot of times, banking trusts are basically a pool of investors that invest in this property. So technically, in order for them to foreclose, wouldn't all of those investors have to come together and be listed in the caption, which is literally impossible because it's too many investors to list in the foreclosure action. So there are plenty of elements that are coming into play with regards to the process of foreclosing on the property. And there are a host of other things that I can get into as far as the fallacies and the procedural mishaps that occur. The fact that the attorneys who are suing on the behalf of the banks are basically there to collect the debt. The fact that the process of the procedure of how they approach it is wrong from the start, from servicing to listing a publication to listing a real party of interest. Everything that they do is fraught with fraud, and people lose their homes based on an intimidation factor. So what I want to do is I want to give people information to help them to fight for their homes and share the experiences that I have in my professional life to help people. And this is what this campaign is basically all about, and this is what it's geared towards. Because there is not enough of this information going around to help the people to save their properties from foreclosure, to help the people to save their properties from unduly high mortgages, unjust mortgages. I can give one example, like an adjustable rate mortgage. And that's a situation where you come into the situation, you may refinance your property, you coming into it where you're paying maybe 5, 6 points, maybe 7 on the loan, and then after 2 or 3 years pass, it balloons up to 12, 13, 14%. So now the mortgage payment may have been $1,200, but now it's $1,600. How are you gonna be able to manage that? It's set up and designed for you to fail. So, that being said, I'm here for you. My name is Brother Loveville, and this is a campaign that I have going on. I have a small business, and I'm in business to help people save their properties from foreclosure. So, you support me in this campaign, and that's what you would be supporting. With that being said, let me say peace.